Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Here's your host, MagMongoSlade. Today, we talk about Monday Night Raw, September 11th, 2023. Let's get into this show. It was okay. Just okay. Nia Jax is back. I have a surprising opinion on that. So hold on. All right. Let's talk about this. This was officially the last Monday Night Raw of the McMahon era before the Endeavor takeover, which will apparently be taking place on September the 12th, which is the day after this Raw. And Ari Emanuel and Endeavor will take over a controlling share of WWE. And WWE will then be combining with the UFC to create the TKO group, of which Vince McMahon will only own 16%. So WWE, while Vince McMahon will still be one of the controlling individuals involved, he will not be a majority owner in the company and will have a supervisor or a boss for the first time in almost 50 years. He hasn't worked for anybody except his father in the entire time he's been in the wrestling. So you would think that would be a major point in this show. I certainly would have used it to draw more viewers on this show. I certainly would have made the show bigger by utilizing that there's going to be some big changes. But WWE wants people to understand and wants people to believe that there's going to be a seamless transition. They don't want to tell people, the McMahons are going to lose authority and lose power, because then what ends up happening is you lose audience trust. So they don't want to do that. Now, while I know that you have seen this all over Twitter, that, the McMahons are no longer involved, that is untrue. Vince McMahon is still, I think, the executive chairman of TKO Group. So he's one of the bosses of TKO Group, but he will not be solely running WWE. So it is the end of an era, in so much as the McMahons no longer own WWE. But they're still involved, clearly, because Triple H will still be running creative, and Vince will still be floating around there, I guess wiping his baby's mouth every once in a while. But it's still the end of an era. The company that was founded by Toots Mont and Vincent J. McMahon way back in the 60s at Capital Wrestling, well, actually back in the 50s, is gone. You would think that would have been a bigger deal made out of that. But again, they don't want to cause too many quakes in the fan base. And people understand that despite the ups and the downs and how weird, wrestling fans can be, there is a fierce loyalty to Vince McMahon and the WWF and the WWE as a product. And typically what happens when family-owned companies are bought, the family is around for a little while, and then the family is eventually phased out. It happened to Disney. It's going to happen to Walmart eventually. It happens. So the McMahons is basically just their time. That they were on the company for a long time. Then they hit a wall where the guy running the place doesn't think that the kids are in the position to run it. The kids can't grow the company. The kids have no vision, or whatever the case may be. Or somebody else had a better vision. Or the kids are traitors who try to get them booted out of the company, however that happened. We probably won't know anytime soon why Vince decided to sell the company rather than try to leave it to Stephanie. But whatever the situation is, he decided it was best for the company to be purchased and integrated into Endeavor rather than it still being a standalone entity. And there is some benefits to that. But I know as a wrestling fan, especially if you grew up watching this stuff your whole life, from the very first event I've ever watched was Royal Rumble 1990 to this episode of Monday Night Raw, and going back and watching older stuff and always constantly finding new things to watch. It will be odd thinking that a guy who's not a wrestling fan is the head honcho and the boss of the largest wrestling promotion in the history of the world. And this guy just bought it. And now he's the guy who owns it. And his whole thing is, I'll leave it to the wrestling folks, which is fine until these people start to die off, and then what? Some corporate jack off starts running the company? I don't know about that. I'm also, one of those people that is, I absolutely hate change. And I'm willing to accept that. I was fine with it being Stephanie. I'm fine with it being Triple H, even though I criticize him quite a bit. I am not a big fan of non-wrestling guys making these decisions for wrestling promotions. I'm not a big fan of that. Of course, there's been a lot of chatter that this thing won't last very long before Endeavor probably flips it to somewhere else anyway. Or, because I've heard they're going to flip UFC too, but I doubt it. This whole thing is about creating a new company that's going to be an entertainment powerhouse. I doubt they sell it within 5 or 10 years or whatever. So Vince probably will not live long enough to see WWE sold again. But that'll only happen if they start to lose money, which I don't think will happen. All right, so the true end of an era. They still run Monday Night Raw, don't get it wrong, but they won't own the company anymore. There will always be somebody that they have to answer to now. Okay, so now we got that little prologue, that little preamble out of the way. We got to talk about your boy Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle went over to India, apparently, and then decided he was going to get himself into some trouble. So Matt Riddle comes from India through New York and has a run-in with TSA. His run-in with TSA leads him to go on Instagram and say, quote, "Nothing like being sexually assaulted by an officer and harassed at the JFK airport. No means no, and just because I'm nice doesn't mean yes. Asshole. Don't know their Twitter or Instagram handles, but I took pictures. Normally, I'm like whatever, but today was really weird and uncomfortable, and they made a point to make me feel small and useless. Definitely one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had thanks to New York City. You're so progressive and accepting." He also posted a picture of one of the police officers that supposedly sexually assaulted him. This, of course, blew up all over the internet. This thing took off running, especially since Matt Riddle himself was accused of rape. If you're a new subscriber, I talked extensively about the Matt Riddle rape case. Well, that's somewhere in the archives. I think I should have a video section on Matt Riddle by himself by now. But TMZ got hold of the story, Ringside News and Bodyslam.net, and a bunch of people jumped all over it and decided that they was going to say that Matt Riddle was actually intoxicated, and that's what caused all this. Let's go through the TMZ story before we get to Raw. Early in the article, they lay down essentially what happened. He posted that picture. And then this is the part where it gets interesting. It says, "Now, as far as what led to this and what exactly went down, we have some answers. Law enforcement sources tell us Port Authority officers got a call for a disorderly person who was deplaning, and they met him in the terminal. As it turns out, that was Riddle. We're told the cops talked to Matt Riddle, as well as other witnesses, and he seemed apologetic in the moment. No police report was filed, and everyone was free to go without incident. It's because of this that our sources say the Port Authority was shocked by Riddle's claim, as from their view, nothing went down to warrant such an accusation. Still, we're told the department is taking his claim seriously, and an internal probe has been launched. The last thing Riddle had to say about this was not great. He says, quote, finally leaving JFK, and I never want to come back here again. Ringside News first reported the confrontation. Basically, Ringside News claims that Matt Riddle was in some ways intoxicated. But it's Ringside News, so I don't take anything they say seriously. I mean, it's just unfortunate, but they burn people so many times. Bodyslam.net has also said that, but they've also burned people a lot. But that seems to be what TMZ is also confirming, that Matt Riddle was going through something. He was drunk, high, something to that effect when this whole ordeal went down. This created, of course, a really weird incident because Riddle, who has been accused of rape, his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, used this as an opportunity to jump all over social media and talk about no means no and how he's not a victim and how he's victimized others and basically bringing that whole thing right back up. It's a really ugly situation that we got here. Then this was followed with stories of Riddle not appearing on Monday Night Raw and then also being removed from house shows coming up over the next couple of days or weeks or whatever. And people think that he's going to be fired. At least that's what some people believe. I have a hard time thinking he's going to get fired for claiming TSA sexually assaulted him. He may be fired for, I don't know, being intoxicated on the plane. You know, that might be, especially as he's already gone through rehab. They already did the rehab thing with this guy. If he relapsed and he was still, having bizarre behaviors, that might be cause to fire him. If he took time off to go to rehab, then he came back, relapsed, and then got into some trouble at TSA, that might be cause to fire him. But since he wasn't detained for being intoxicated, I don't see why they would punish him just because he tweeted out some dumb shit. So I don't know. It's very bizarre. But some people think that Matt Riddle was drunk or high or whatever the case may be. He might as well have been. But that has not been confirmed by any credible sources, just what is alleged, that why he would make such a bizarre claim. But it is a bizarre claim. It's very interesting. So Matt Riddle in trouble again. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some kind of further news on this in the coming days, especially since he won't be on TV. There's a lot of people who are like, look, Matt Riddle's not worth it. The guy's a headache. He's constantly in trouble. He's constantly up to no good. Just cut bait with him. And I think when you look at his age, he's like over the age of 35. He just re-signed him to a contract maybe a year or two ago. They're paying the guy millions of dollars. Yes, that's true. They are paying him millions of dollars, at least $2 million, I think. And is it worth it to keep this guy around? I don't know. Is he ever going to be world champion? Probably not. But if you're going to fire a guy, fire him for good reason. Not just because there's people on the internet who don't like him. That doesn't seem like a good reason to fire somebody. All right, so let's get into the show. Jey Uso, he's feeling good being by himself, but he wasn't by himself for long because here comes Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens decides that he's going to tell Jey Uso that he's been where Jey Uso was trying to go, that he did bad things and getting redemption was hard. It's hard to earn people's respect and to earn people's trust. And there's people who don't want Jey here. It's not going to be easy. He doesn't really want Jey there. Cody and Sami wants to give Jey a chance, but that's it. That's essentially the only people who care. Judgment Day then came out. Finn Balor says that he respects Jey Uso. He wants Jey Uso there. And Jey doesn't have to prove himself to Finn. Damian Priest said that Kevin Owens does not speak for the locker room and that the door is always open for Jey Uso to join Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio, when he could actually speak, says that Judgment Day has always been there for him and they will do the same for Jey Uso. Damian Priest wanted to have a tag team match with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but Sami Zayn was not present. This led Kevin Owens to say he'll fight all three of them, but of course, Jey Uso volunteers to team up with them. They fight Judgment Day, and then they agree to do so. We already know where this is going. This is the same formula every goddamn week. Anyway, Jey Uso and Kevin Owens are defeated by the Judgment Day because Jey Uso accidentally kicked Kevin Owens in the face. It was a match. I'm blown away about how many times these guys can wrestle each other over and over. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. I hate it so much. Coup de grace. Judgment Day wins. After the match, Kevin Owens and Jey Uso start having problems. Jay's trying to apologize. He's very apologetic, but Kevin Owens is pissed. Told him to go dye his hair purple and join his new bloodline, the Judgment Day. And Jay's like, whoa, what did I do to deserve all that? But he did it. I think Kevin Owens, it makes sense in terms of his character because they've been they've been making him having a temper a part of his character. So him blowing up on Jey Uso kind of makes sense. The problem that we got here is that we're already doing this storyline that, oops, I accidentally kicked one of my friends. We just did this last week. Didn't Kofi Kingston just, whoops, accidentally kick somebody that he was friends with last week? Bro, they have gotten so bored creatively that they're just redoing storylines a week later. They did it again tonight. Nakamura and Ricochet. They had a match last week. They're going to have another match next week. Are you serious? Anyway. Jey Uso was not done for the evening, and neither was the Judgment Day. Cody Rhodes came out, said he wanted to talk, asked the people of Virginia what they wanted to talk about. But Dominic Mysterio interrupted, said that he was happy that Cody Rhodes brought Jey Uso to Raw. He's going to join Judgment Day. He's going to make Cody look like a fool. It's going to be amazing. Cody ended up punching Dominic, and then JD McDonough came out there, and Cody ended up beating up both of them. Great way to make your guys look good by having Cody beat up both of them. But since both of them are smaller guys, it doesn't matter that much anyway. Jey Uso's night was not finished, of course, because he got in the face of Drew McIntyre. Because Drew McIntyre said that he doesn't trust Jey Uso not one bit, and he doesn't think that Jey can stand on his own. So Jey told him, pull up next week. He's willing to prove that he can stand on his own next week in a match against Drew McIntyre. This ought to be interesting, especially since the story that they've been telling is the difference between Jimmy and Jey about when under pressure, Jimmy buckled and went back to the bloodline, while Jey is trying to rise up to the challenge and force his way into being respected as a solo star. Judgment Day also says backstage that they want Jey isolated, because the more isolated he is, the more likely he is to join Judgment Day. So that's what the plan is. The plan is to make Jey feel welcome while other people make him feel unwelcome, and then he will join them. Hopefully. At least they think so. I don't think this is a good idea. It's not really a solid plan. I don't dislike the storyline of them trying to appeal to Jey Uso's people not liking him, and they've been more accepting. I don't really have I don't take umbrage with that. I do dislike the idea, however, that we're just going to do the, I accidentally kicked my partner gimmick again. That I didn't like. But the whole Judgment Day, Jey Uso stuff, having various guys say they don't like Jey straight to his face, I like that, because when you are heel for a long time and you do dirty, dastardly things to people, they tend to have feelings about it. They tend to feel very negatively about you and what you've done to them. So I'm okay with that. All right, Imperium, they showed up. They were in great suits. I mean, they look, they clean as a surgeon's hands. They come out there. They look great. They look like stars. They look like people who make money. They look rich. They look like TV stars who you're seeing at the Oscars. They look like they're on the Golden Globes. Just phenomenal. So they do their in-ring celebration where Gunther cuts a promo saying that he rewrote history, that the legends came before him contributed nothing, that he was the one who elevated this championship, but now there's a problem that he has no competition and he's just competing with himself. Gable came out there and said that nobody came closer to beating Gunther than he did. And Gunther caused his daughter to cry. And he swears to God that he's going to beat Gunther and win that Intercontinental Championship. But he's not sure when, where, or how. But he's going to wrestle Gunther again. And his daughter is going to leave with a smile on her face. So Gunther says that, Gable is a fantastic athlete. But he's a horrible, disgusting father. Because he's been using his children to get more spotlight. And then, of course, this has led to a fight between the two of them. At this point, Imperium beat the tar out of Chad Gable. Otis came out there. Then a big surprise, we get Tommaso Ciampa running out there to help. So Ciampa Otis, they are the ones who pitched the 6-man, or not Ciampa. Otis and Gable were the two guys who pitched the 6-man tag team match. And that's really what we end up with later, is the Alpha Academy and Tommaso Ciampa defeating Imperium. So Gable gets the win with the ankle lock on Vinci, and Gunther is put into a submission hold by Ciampa. Even though he's not selling the submission hold, he's selling the desperation of trying to break up Vinci's submission. You know, he's trying to stop Vinci from submitting. He's not really concerned about himself. That's an artistic choice, I guess you could say. Artistic decision to not sell Ciampa's finisher or his submission hold, but to instead sell the idea that I gotta stop this guy from tapping out, and he ends up tapping out anyway. Okay, I'm not thrilled about them going right back to Gable. I get it. I understand it. They have good matches together. You want to keep that momentum going. At the same time, though, it's not necessary that they wrestle 3 weeks in a row. You know, you could take a week off. You could, have Gable win a match over literally anybody else, and then he rebuilds himself, and, he eventually works his way back to wrestling Gunther again. You don't have to. If a characters are in a feud, they don't have to interact every week. You could have Gable cut that same promo that he swears to God he's going to win the Intercontinental Championship, put a smile on his daughter's face, which was a great baby face line. He made a promise, which means he's going to have to achieve that promise. But he can do all of that and then just have a match with guy in the blue corner, wrestle that guy, win that match, and gain some momentum. Gunther could, keep his eye on him, but also have other opponents that he's got to face while he continues to build his legacy, and then eventually they meet again. Instead of Gunther and Gable in some version of a match 3 or 4 weeks in a row, people get burned out on watching people wrestle when you do that. So separate them for a little while, I think, but they chose not to go that route. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go Gable, Gunther 4 immediately. I don't think so. They're clearly probably going to go with Gunther and Tommaso Ciampa for a little while. But Gable's still in the picture. Clearly, they're going to do something between Gunther and Vinci. They have been teasing this stuff for weeks. Maybe this is the straw that broke the camel's back, and we're finally going to get Vinci kicked out of Imperium. So that's something that interests me. I'm interested in seeing where we go with Vinci and Gunther and stuff now. Next, Miz defeated Akira Tozawa. It was swift. Who really cares about this? It happened. It was never referenced again. Perfectly mid-card. Raquel Rodriguez, she did a backstage promo where she said she's not like most girls. Then said that reality is worse than a nightmare, and that Rhea's going to get a taste of her own medicine tonight, because Rhea will not be the biggest, the strongest, or the baddest woman in this match. At this point, I really hated the backgrounds, because it was like regular backgrounds where there's people working backstage, moving boxes, and guys just wandering and walking. And it just reminded me that wrestling was so much better when you had Mean Gene Okerlund in front of a screen or in a locker room or something, and they cut promos there. Now they're just doing promos in the middle of a hallway where like other people are working. It's stupid. I just don't like it. I would rather them talk in front of the Raw logo than stand there in the middle of nowhere. I get it. They try to, shake things up, but I really can't stand it. This leads us to the main event, because Rhea Ripley didn't have much to say about having a match with Raquel Rodriguez, outside of she promised to handle the problem. So Raquel and Rhea Ripley, they got the main event. The main event started at I'd say about 10:45 maybe. So the match was about 15 minutes with commercials. Solid enough match. Good match. I think it was better than the match that they had on the pay-per-view. Raquel it's still not that polished in terms of she couldn't get Rhea up a couple of times. The upper body strength of women, I don't understand it. Even with all the muscles and everything, they still just have a difficult time moving each other around. But she almost dropped Rhea twice from what it looked like. When she tried to bounce her off the ring, not the ring apron, but the announce desk, she almost dropped her there. Then when she did the powerbomb on the apron, it looked like she wanted to drop her there too, even though it was actually okay for her to drop her at that point in time. A lot of big boots in this match, and I was fine with that. You know, it's a simple attack. The only problem is every time you have a tall, athletic girl, the big boot is basically her go-to move, because Charlotte does it a lot too. I'm going to do a running kick to your face. That's pretty much it. The finish, however, Raquel Rodriguez seemed to have the match won as she powerbombs Rhea Ripley on the ring apron. Then, out of nowhere, Nia Jax scoops up Raquel Rodriguez and does a Samoan drop. Then she stands off to the side, soaking up the heel heat. The referee sees Raquel Rodriguez on the ground, doesn't see the giant fucking Samoan chick standing not far away, didn't see her at all, never even looked in that direction. Raquel Rodriguez gets thrown in the ring, riptide, pinned. Okay, fine. It protected Raquel. This match was set up for Raquel to win. And of course, Ring Psychology 101. All things are fair. The babyface should win the match. Unless you're a Gunther or a Brock Lesnar or a Kurt Angle or something like that. Okay? So, at this point, Rhea Ripley was put in a position where she looked vulnerable. She looked beatable. And then, through act of God, Raquel Rodriguez ended up losing. So we think that Nia Jax is somehow on the side or in league with Rhea Ripley. And then Nia Jax gets in the ring and she beats up Rhea Ripley too. So big surprise at the end. Now, I actually like the Nia Jax return. Why did I like the Nia Jax return? Well, one of the problems with Nia Jax when she was there is that she was so much bigger than everybody else that she basically barely put her hands on them and they would get hurt. You know, we all know that Nia Jax was the one who broke Becky Lynch's face. I don't know how many times she put Alexa Bliss in the hospital. It was like, it was a horrible time. But she's wrestling these super uber petite women. There's not much that she can do to them that will not hurt them. But Raquel is a big girl and Rhea is a big girl. These girls are a challenge. You know, she comes back to reinsert herself in the big girl situation here. Like, okay, they're big, they're durable, they can take it. I'm pretty sure if she, did a Samoan drop, or she did a bonsai drop here on Rhea Ripley, I'm pretty sure Rhea was fine. You know? Imagine if she did a bonsai drop on fucking Liv Morgan or something like that. You'd have to beat all the simps with a bat in order to keep them to calm down. So I'm okay with it because Rhea Ripley needs more challengers and she needs more threats. And they've shown that if you're as big as she is, her advantages are taken away and she's a more beatable champion. Having Nia Jax in there, she has some credibility from being there before. People know who she is. She has some notoriety. So you're not taking time to build an entirely new talent. It gives the girls who people might not know a rub because now they get to wrestle somebody who's bigger, who's wrestled at WrestleMania, who people know. And I'm not saying that Nia Jax is the biggest superstar of all time, but she hasn't been gone that long. She's been gone a little over a year and a half, maybe 2. So people know who she is. They know what her reputation is. She needed to go away for a while because she was the female Big Show. So she did go away for a while. And now they're bringing her back and they have a very specific usage for her in terms of she's going to be in there with the big girls. Hopefully not killing them, but testing them. And the visuals of her wrestling the bigger girls, the Biancas, the Rheas, that ought to be fun. And that's, it's not quite big meaty men slapping meat, but it ain't that far off. You know, I saw somebody on Twitter say that Raquel and Rhea should be having Goldberg and Brock type matches, where instead of trying to work this whole thing out, they should just be going out there, short bursts of a lot of action, laying their shit in, hitting big moves, and getting the hell out of there. And I actually concur. I concur with that. I think Raquel Rodriguez should probably keep her moveset more like Kevin Nash. She does sidewalk slams, big boot, maybe a leg drop here and there. She wants to break out the Vader bomb every once in a while. Okay, fine. But keep it simple. And then your big move is your power bomb, and you call it a day. Rhea is a little bit more dynamic. She can work with smaller talent. She can work with bigger talent. Things ought to be a little bit different for her. But for Raquel Rodriguez, much simpler match style, much shorter match would probably be better for her in terms of highlighting her character and what she can do. Same thing for Nia Jax, if we're being honest. There's no need for them to have 15, 20-minute matches. There's no need for it. But I'm okay with the finish. It was a surprise. Raw has had a dearth of surprises lately. So I was actually okay with the big surprise at the end. Was I not okay with Shayna Basler being put in another tag team? Not a big fan of that. She claimed that Zoe Stark surprised her with her toughness. Chelsea Green shows up, starts to brown nose, talks about how Piper Niven is not medically cleared, and she's looking for a new partner. She suggests Shayna Basler. Then she said that they're peers. They both are talented. They both are champions. They're peers. Shayna Basler is offended that Chelsea Green put herself on Shayna Basler's level and said she wants to show her the difference between the two of them, how big the gap between the two of them really is, and they're going to have a match. So Chelsea Green is like, I need a new tag team partner. Oh, here's Piper Niven. She's medically clear and she snatches the tag team titles. And we have the match where Shayna Basler squashes Chelsea Green as Piper Niven just stands there and watches, which I was like, what is the purpose of her being out there if she's not going to fucking help? Whatever. Anyway, after the match, Shayna Basler and Piper Niven get into it, and Zoe Stark came out there and saved Shayna Basler. So Zoe Stark and Shayna Basler are going to be a tag team to feud with Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, who is so feckless that she can't last 2 minutes by herself. I don't know about this. Look, what was the purpose of Shayna Basler running out Ronda Rousey or Zoe Stark getting this big push, not only to team up with Trish Stratus, but also to, be the one who sent Trish Stratus home? And your big push for them is they're going to be in a tag team. I'm sorry, my friends, that's garbage. It's absolute garbage. I get it. The tag team division is almost dead. You're trying to do something. But Shayna Basler and Zoe Stark, neither one of whom are really over right now. And you didn't do a good job of getting Chelsea Green over either, because she's not a threat. And then you also didn't do a good job of getting over Piper Niven, because she doesn't really do anything except bully Chelsea Green. So in this situation, nobody's over. Chelsea Green is a personality, and that's great, but she can't carry this thing by herself. She's the only one here that actually shows any personality. So she can't do it alone. You're asking a lot of this young lady. I mean, like, goddamn. She's Canadian, for Christ's sake. She can only do so much. Zoe Stark is out there with the charisma of a dollar store mannequin. Who the hell wants to take her seriously? Interestingly enough, Piper Niven should probably be in the big girl conversation somewhere, shouldn't she? Funny how we just basically pushed her to the side into the tag team division and then brought back Nia Jax and said, well, you know what? This is probably a better fit. I'm okay with it. Look, Piper Niven, her time will come. Her time will come. All right, Drew McIntyre and Xavier Woods got into an argument. Drew McIntyre thought they were done after he apologized for hitting Xavier with a chair. But Xavier was like, nah, you hit me with a face with a chair. That sucked, but that's not what I got a problem with. I got a problem with you shit-talking Kofi. And then Drew McIntyre was like, look, if Kofi got a problem with me, he needs to talk to me personally. So Xavier Woods said, I'm the one talking to you. What's your problem? Are you jealous that Kofi Mania was in front of 82,000 people while your biggest moment was in the Thunderdome with nobody there? And Drew McIntyre starts to seethe a little bit. Says he doesn't really want to hurt Xavier, but what's going to happen tonight is not going to be an accident. So match 3 on this show, Xavier Woods versus Drew McIntyre. A match that was surprisingly hard fought. I was not expecting Xavier Woods to actually put up a decent fight with Drew McIntyre. Same time, though, this is Triple H booking, so everybody gets time. Everybody gets time. It was a solid enough match, though. You know, it was solid. We're starting to turn Drew McIntyre heel here. He's feuding with New Day. He's now starting to pick a fight with Jey Uso. Drew McIntyre is becoming a dick. He's becoming bitter. He's becoming frustrated. He's becoming angry. You know, he doesn't like what's going on around him. He's not being a friendly, jovial history teacher anymore. He's not wearing Cosby sweaters anymore. So this ought to work out just fine. Turning him heel slowly works for me. I'm okay with that. Xavier Woods, man, boy, that's a stale guy right there. Every time that's one of those things where as soon as I hear the New Day theme, I just start to tune out, you know, because I'm like, oh my goodness, nothing's going to happen here. Nothing's going to change here. They've been doing the same thing for almost 10 years, if not 10 years by now. This is never going to go anywhere. It's just not going anywhere. All right, next, Nakamura and Rollins. So they had a fun promo segment. Nakamura, he's wearing a gi. He's got a katana. He said that Seth Rollins is not honorable. He's a betrayer. He's a manipulator. He's a liar. And he dishonors his family. He shames his family. He will strip him of the title. And he challenges him to a match when he feels like it. And he said at one point that, will the people continue to sing when they remember what you have done? That's when he started calling him a liar and a manipulator, all this kind of stuff. So Rollins comes out there and he's wearing these sunglasses that look like the Barbarian's makeup when he was in Powers of Pain. Anyway, Rollins admitted to being everything that Nakamura said that he was. But he says he's also a father and a champion and a fighter. And that, you know, when he was younger, he didn't know who he was. So he tried a little bit of everything. He joined the Authority. He turned his back on the Shield. And he said that he built up a facade while he was trying to figure it out. And then he said that he finally did come to grips with what the people wanted from him. They wanted him to be himself. And that's why they sing his song. Then he said he made peace with his past and he's proud of his future, but he's here to fight right now. Management wants him to slow down, but he said he's not made that way. And he wants to have a championship match with Nakamura right now. Nakamura pops up on the screen, kicking Ricochet in the head and stuff, saying, nope, nope, nope. He told Rollins that Rollins is not medically cleared, so he picked another fight. And that he will take Seth Rollins' championship, but it will not be today because Seth Rollins is not medically cleared. Look, I'm really glad they're doing good stuff with Nakamura and the subtitles and really getting him over, letting him tell the story. He's actually very good at it. You know, this works. You know, even though it's highly edited, it works. The problem that we got here is I don't think anybody believes in Nakamura. I said the other day that, you know, Nakamura Rollins was mid. And I don't mean the match itself. I thought the match was good. They always have good matches together. And it was a match they had in Singapore that was really badass. If you could find it on YouTube, you could watch it. But part of the match is people believing in the opponent. And I don't think we've gotten to the point where people believe in Nakamura yet. And if you're not going to get people to believe in Nakamura, if you just have Nakamura beat up on guys like Ricochet and then that's it, you know, he needs to beat higher level opponents. You have to get people to believe in Nakamura. This was the same thing that the problem they had with Chad Gable. They was able to get Chad Gable faith because they did the 10-minute draw thing. Then he beat Gunther by countout. So that got people to believe in Chad Gable. So that's why it worked. When it comes to Nakamura and Rollins, they've had one match in this series. Rollins won that match clean. And now we're trying to get people to believe that Nakamura can win. It's like, we need to put Nakamura in the ring or create a scenario in which people will believe in Nakamura, where people will buy into Nakamura winning the title. A good example of this was the Becky Lynch-Tiffany Stratton angle. So Tiffany Stratton is backstage on Raw. She's basically being Chelsea Green. She's complaining a lot, and Adam Pearce is very exasperated about Tiffany Stratton, who is complaining about not having the red carpet rolled out for her and all this kind of stuff. So Becky Lynch shows up. So Adam Pearce says, okay, Shawn Michaels wants you guys to sign this contract for the NXT Women's title match. So Tiffany Stratton introduces herself, apologizes again for what she said about Becky Lynch, which is that Becky Lynch is a former NXT champion, which I don't see why she was offended by that. Then she asks the question, why do you want to have this match with me? Why are you coming after me? What's going on? So Becky Lynch explains that Tiffany Stratton has been lingering around Monday Night Raw trying to get attention for her dead-end title run, and that Tiffany Stratton has she looks great, she's a great athlete, but all she cares about is being famous. And since she wants to be famous and get in Becky Lynch's business, she is going to make Tiffany Stratton famous. So Tiffany Stratton said that she doesn't need to be made famous. She's been doing well enough on her own. But since Becky Lynch wants to have the match, she will be there on Tuesday. Now, look at this situation here where people are like, okay, they infinitely believe in Becky Lynch. Not just because Becky Lynch has reputation, but because Becky Lynch has won some really big matches lately. And Tiffany Stratton, she has been on the downslide a little bit. She's been winning her matches, but she's also not looked as strong as she used to look. They booked her pretty weak, actually, since she won the title. They booked her to be a little bit more beatable. But this was her introduction to the Monday Night Raw audience. And it was that she was strong. She apologized for some of the stuff that she said before. But when Becky Lynch was not receptive to her apology, she doubled down and healed on her again, so it worked. It wasn't the best performance in the world, but it shows you that who the character and what the character is. That was a positive and a negative. A positive of that is that she's good at her character. A negative is that they already have people doing something similar. Chelsea Green's doing a similar character, and we already know that Carmella was also doing a similar character when she was on the main roster. So you have to separate Tiffany Stratton from them. And that's going to take some time. But Becky Lynch wanting to wrestle her, wanting to elevate her is a good thing. And if people believe in Becky Lynch winning that match, therefore, there's going to be a lot more heat and excitement to that match. Now, take that into account when you think about Gunther and Chad Gable, where the only matches Chad Gable have won have been matches that he wrestled against Gunther or, Imperium members. He needs to build some momentum. They actually did give Becky Lynch momentum going into this match with Tiffany Stratton because she beat Trish Stratus and she also beat Zoe Stark the same week. So she coming off two really big victories coming into this match with Tiffany Stratton, she beat Thea Hale, but that was kind of with help. And she did beat Kiana James, and she did that by cheating, but she did win the match. So both people come into the match with momentum. The storyline is it could go either way. Tiffany could cheat and win, or, the bigger star could take the belt and run with it for a little while. So you need to do this with all your other titles. There's almost no tag teams right now. It just not working. There's almost no tag teams that people believe in. I'm not sure people fully believe in Chad Gable. I think they did during the match. They think, oh, this guy's got a chance. And then that was fleeting. Once he lost, people were kind of like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. I was stupid for believing in him. Nakamura, similar. People were like, I don't think he's going to make it. The match happens. People were like, yeah, that it might actually happen. The miracle might actually occur. And then, I figured it wasn't going to happen. But then you double down and you just bring them right back into the fold. And it's like, okay, come on. You had a hard enough time getting people to buy into it the first time. And now you're going to try to do it again. I don't know. You can only steal a house once or twice, I don't see why you would keep doing this. But overall, the show was okay in terms of story. They furthered a lot of the stuff that they were doing. Interesting angles was the return for Nia Jax. Again, I'm a big fan of that because now she's got big girls to work with, like Piper Niven and Raquel and Bianca and Rhea. And that could work out for her. She's got a super heavyweight division for her to work in now. Plus, I'm always okay with bringing back familiar faces, and integrating them into the show. Not saying that she was missed at all, but she adds something that the other girls didn't have. And that actually helps the show. She's a diverse body. And she has a diverse skill set. She's not another small, petite woman doing flips off the top rope. There's plenty of those on the roster. So she's something different. Drew McIntyre's heel turn is moving a little slow, but it seems like they're going to kick it into overdrive next week with the Jey Uso thing. Jey Uso on the roster, huge babyface, by the way. Big reactions for him. I dislike the fact that they kind of seem very slow in what they're going to do with him. They seem to be dragging him through this Judgment Day thing. And I do like that he polarizes the locker room. That's good. But you would think that main event Jey Uso would be more interested in working main events and not opening tag team matches to get people to trust him and to like him. That's not what he's there for. He's not there to be trusted and liked by everybody else in the locker room. He's there to be the top guy, what he wanted to be when he left SmackDown. And orienting the character that way probably would have been a little bit better, but I see why they did it because they want to do the drama angle, which is fine. The drama is actually what gets people interested and gets people watching the show, but I don't think anybody truly believes that he's going to join Judgment Day. And you're going to have to do something that's going to happen that's going to get people to believe that he's going to join Judgment Day. So how I would do that is I would have him wrestle Drew McIntyre next week. I would have Drew McIntyre lose control, hit him with a chair or something like that, get disqualified. And then I would have Judgment Day run down to the ring and help him. Maybe Damian Priest dots Drew McIntyre in the head with the briefcase, and everybody jumps him and beats him down. And then you have the Judgment Day help him to his feet and all this kind of stuff, and we always got to have your back. And anytime somebody gets into Jay's face, the Judgment Day attacks them and beats them up and all this kind of stuff. And you just basically do that through the rest of the night. And of course, you still wouldn't have Jey join them, but at least give Jey a reason to join Judgment Day other than, Dominic Mysterio says he understands them and he likes them. Rhea Ripley is a fan. Finn Balor's a fan. Even though it was kind of funny when Jey was actually interested in Rhea being a fan of his. He's like, for real? But give us legitimate reasons to believe in stuff. It's a very important element in storytelling, is that people don't just experience the story, but they actually believe the stuff that's going on in the story, that it's logical, that it makes sense, and that, of course, I could make that decision too if I was in that position, because that storytelling is people living vicariously through characters. Would you make the same decision if you was in this character's position? And part of that as well is the characters having the capacity to follow through with the things that they say. That's a big thing when it comes to Gunther and Nakamura and Gable and all these characters. Gable has shown that he does have the capacity to hang with Gunther, but they haven't shown that he has the capacity to actually do what he says. He's swearing that he's going to put a smile on his daughter's face, which would be a great story when it happens, but take the time to push him up the ladder. Take the time to have him wrestle higher level opponents and him survive and win those matches. That it's not just that he's got Gunther's number, but that he's a legitimate talent, that he can beat pretty much anybody on the roster at any time. You got too many people on this show, who are signed the contracts that basically don't do shit all day. And these same guys are wrestling each other 100 times in a row, and you win some, you lose some, and that doesn't get anybody over. Overall, though, again, there were some storyline elements that I liked. A lot of the matches were forgettable, but that's typical of WWE. So overall, I wasn't bored to death, but I did find myself losing interest in some of the matches because I felt like I've seen them before in one way or another. The 6-man tag with Imperium, I felt like I've seen that before because I've seen Gunther wrestle Gable for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Same thing with the tag team match with Kevin Owens and Judgment Day. I feel like I've been watching Kevin Owens fight Judgment Day for 2 months, 6 months or whatever. Miz versus Akira Tozawa happened 2 weeks ago. Nakamura and Ricochet happened 2 weeks ago. Like, this kind of stuff is, or not even 2 weeks ago, it was last week actually that they got into it. So they're not rotating their talent enough. This stuff's coming across as being repetitive. Even the stories have gotten repetitive. The oops, I kicked you in the head storyline. Oops, I hit you in the head with a chair by accident storyline. We already did this shit, So, but let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you guys later.